guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a cool pendant where we're going to be creating a mountain river. So, to start you're going to need 3 sheets of polymer clay, and I'm choosing to use black souffle today, otherwise known as poppy seed. That's the correct colour name, because we're not going to be applying any varnish to this and I want it to have a nice subtle texture. So you need 3 sheets. You're going to have 2 that are about 1/2 millimeter thick, and then you're going to have another one which is at least a millimeter thick. I generally go about 1 millimeter and a half for that one. Okay, so we're going to start with our first layer. And the first layer is going to be to create some mountains. I'm just gently going to take that. I need to just stick a little bit to my tile. So I'm just gently going to burnish that down a little bit. There we go. Right, and I'm going to be using my smallest rectangle statement cutter. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to press that gently into the surface so that it creates an outline. Let me just zoom out a little bit for you. Then take a ball tool or a blunt tool of any kind, and I want you to start tracing out essentially the line of your mountain. Like so. And you can edit it as much as you want. Edit it, that's not really the right word, but you can just change it up as much as you want. Try to put in crags, you don't want it to just be straight lines. Okay, and then once you're happy with it, just use your ball tool or blunt tool of choice to just trace out the correct line. Okay, then grab a craft knife. Cut that out. Okay. And then once you've removed it, you can change it up a little bit. And keep in mind, because we are using one solid colour of clay, if you're not happy with it, just pop it back into your pasta machine, mix it up and give it another go. There's no point in baking something you're not happy with. Just trying to sharpen up that peak there. There. I'm quite a bit happier with that. Right, and then I'm just going to use my blade to just gently give it a little bit more definition. There. Then gently pat down on the sides to make sure it's smoothed out. And lift that off your tile. Don't cut out the shape of your cutter just yet. Just lift it up. And tidy up any areas that might need tidying, like there was a little bit that needed to be tapped down. That's all good. Alright, I'm going to pop that to the side now. I'm going to bring over our next piece, and this is, that one that we used just there was the 1 millimeter, excuse me, a 1/2 millimeter thick one. Now I'm bringing over the 1.5 millimeter thick one. And I'm burnishing that onto my tile. Then bring this over. Place that down, and also use your paper to very gently burnish it on top. Don't press too hard, but you do want to just gently burnish that off. Okay, then again, bring over your ball tool. And what we're going to do now is we're going to trace out the shape of a river. And I like to start at the bottom. Generally find that is the best place to start. And again, at any point, if you accidentally mess it up and you're not happy with it, just pop it back into your pasta machine and redo it. There we go. Then once you're happy with the shape of your river, again, take your knife, and now the important bit over here is you don't want to cut through the mountain here. You want to leave just a slight border. The reason for that is because we're going to be filling this river with resin, and so we do not want the resin to spill into our sky, which is the layer that we're cutting through. I'll explain that in depth in a second. There we go. Then I'm just going to see if I'm happy with that. Trim out any bits that need trimming. And again, this is a very easy project for beginners because we're not going to be wasting any clay if you make a mistake at this point. So it's a very forgiving project. There we go. Pretty happy with that. Grab your ball tool now and gently touch up that section over there. And so hopefully you can see, I'm going to pick this up so that I can tilt it for you. Hopefully you can see there that where my mountains meet, I have not cut through, so there is a bridge between the two, joining them. And that's important because this void that we've cut out here, we are going to be filling with resin, and we don't want it spilling out into our sky, which is going to be this part around here. Okay, so finally bring over your last piece of clay, which is about 1.5 millimeters. I apologise, that was my phone. Anyway, bring over your last sheet of clay, which is 0.5 millimeter thick. Burnish that onto your tile. Then bring over this piece here. You're just going to position that on top, like so. And now because of this bit in the middle, it's going to move around a bit, so bring your cutter over. And I have used my second largest statement cutter as the starting line, and I'm going to cut out my piece using my smallest statement cutter. That way I have a little bit of margin for error to move it around if I want. Okay. And once you've got it set down, gently burnish that onto the surface. Okay. And I'm also just going to smooth along the lines of these river bends. Some of them are just not as smooth as I would like. You can use your ball tool's side again to help smooth that out. Okay. Then we are going to cut this out. So position it in the place you want it to be. Okay, and like that spot. Cut that out, press nice and firmly. Lift that up. There we go. all this clay you can reuse because it is still just plain black. Okay, and now depending on how you want to hang it, I'm going to be hanging it so that we have cords coming out on either end. So I want to position this Kemper cutter and cut out around on either side, but my head needs to get in the way so that I can see where I want to cut out. There we go. And then when you cut them out, like so, your bead is going to distort a little bit, so bring over your cutter again and gently slot it into place and press, and that is just going to bring it back into the right shape. Then use a blade or a craft knife to pick out those sections. There. Okay, now you can leave it like that. If you don't have if you don't want to add anything, you can leave it the way it is. But what I want to do now is I want to bring over some copper mica powder and very gently take a little bit just brush it along the edges of my mountain peaks. Like so. And if you get it on, it's not a big problem. I'll show you how to fix it. Just a minute. Okay. And we did get a little bit on. And I'm kind of happy that happened because now I'll be able to show you what to do in the case of that. Bring over a wet wipe. Put on some isopropyl alcohol. Any strength will work for this. And I want you to go in very carefully and wipe in that section, and it will remove some clay and it will also remove some of that mica powder. Repeat on the other side. And wipe until you have removed all the mica powder. You might need to make a pass or two to get that right. Okay. And then I also like to just go in and gently clean up along the edges, because I feel like some of the edges I put a little bit too much mica powder on. Just want to clean that up just a bit. Okay. And I'll grab my mica powder pot, touch a little bit on, and touch that up again. And then you'll just continue doing that until you're happy with it, until you've cleaned it properly and gotten rid of any spills, and until you have this nice highlighted section, like so. And that should do. Now we're going to put this into the oven for a full hour at Souffle's recommended temperature. And what I recommend doing quickly before doing that is just gently using your blade to just trim away any little bits of excess along the sides there might be. It's very little, but if we do that now, it means we basically don't have to do any sanding. Okay. Then I'm gently going to lift that. Back looks fine. I'm going to put this onto a piece of plain printing paper, and we're going to bake that for a full hour at Souffle's recommended temperature, and then when we're done I'm going to show you how to fill up this river canyon over here. Okay, and here is how it looks. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just attach a piece of tape along the edge over here. And the reason for that is due to our resin that we're going to be using. So grab some tape, and I'm using double-sided tape, so I'm not actually going to be using both sides. I'm just using double-sided tape because it's thicker and easier to work with than normal tape. But feel free to just use normal tape if you want. Just cut off a piece. Okay. Then we want to run it along the length over there. Make sure that it is stuck on properly. Okay. And I'll just drape that end over my resin mat, and that is just going to help our resin stay on our pendant. Just trim that off because we don't need that. Alright, now just making sure that that is well stuck. We might need to do a little bit of sanding later, but that should do the trick. Okay, so I'll put that to the side, and we are going to start mixing up our resin. Okay, now if you have a disposable cup, you can use that, but I'm just going to be using a plastic bag because we really don't need a lot of resin. And we're going to be taking some UV resin, and this is the UV resin that I'm using. And before we actually mix up our mica, I want to actually just create a layer of normal resin in here, just to get the process started. So just pour in a tiny amount, and this will help set things. And then I want you to just take any tool of your choice and spread that resin along the sides until you've covered the entire surface. Now don't add too much resin, that's pretty important. We just want a small amount just to get started, and this is what will hold the tape in place, which will be quite helpful. Okay. And I'm just gently going to brush that up against our tape. Don't push too hard. It's quite important not to push too hard. Okay, and this is a very quick setting UV resin. It will set within seconds, enough that it's not going to spill, which means that we don't have to worry later on about our resin spilling out from between the tape. So pop that into the UV light, and while it's in there we're going to mix up our colours. So grab your UV resin, pour a little bit on, and I'm going to be using the same colour mica powder that I used to brush on top of the mountains. Just want you to add some mica powder, and I'm just going to use my blade, that should add it faster. Don't add too much, but we do want it to be fairly thick. And then just gently mix that into your resin, like so. Make sure that you mix that in thoroughly, because it's quite easy to just mix it onto the surface. Okay, and I'm not just going to be using copper, I'm going to be using a few different colours. I'm just going to add a little bit more resin there. There we go. And you can see it's beautiful the way the mica powder shifts inside there. So just clean off your tool. There we go. And a little bit further down, I'm going to add some more resin. And I'm going to be using some of this beautiful kind of tangerine orange. I think that goes nicely with the copper. You can use any colours you want, but this is the colour that I'm choosing to use. Okay, and then by the time those are all mixed up, our bead should be ready to go. There we are. I'm just gonna pop this to the side. And also, quick tip, make sure that your mica powders are closed once you've finished using them, because it's all too easy to bump it with an elbow, knock it onto the floor, and then you've got a bit of a mini disaster on your hands. I'm just going to bring over our pendant, and don't remove the tape yet, but it should be set enough that it's going to be holding that tape in place, and it's going to have created a mini seal, which is great. So let me just position this so you can see what's going on. Okay, and then I'm going to actually use my blade to scoop in our resin. Just going to start by dropping colours in. And it doesn't matter now if you contaminate each colour a little bit. Make sure not to drop it onto your souffle though, because we don't want resin there. You just continue filling up this void with your resin. Like so. There we go. So you can see how beautiful that is looking. And you can kind of swirl it around a little bit, but generally the mica powder does a pretty good job of doing that while it's curing. So now you need to put this into the UV light for a good, I'd say probably at least about 15 minutes at least, because the mica powder causes it to slow down the curing process. So just make sure that you leave it in a good amount of time. And then I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to actually coat the black in resin. I think I've decided that we should give it a light coat of resin. We'll see how it looks when it's done, but I really want this black to pop out a little bit. But we always do that after this river has been taken care of. So pop that into the UV light, and then when it is properly cured to the touch, you should be able to touch it and it should be cured. Then we will remove the tape. And as for any resin left over, it's up to you if you want to use it or not. Generally there's not much left, so I put that into the UV light as well and then dispose it. Or you could even, at that point, once it's cured, you could peel it off the bag and use it again. Okay, and here is how it looks. And also I sealed off this part over here with some resin, and I'll show you how to seal off the other sides in just a moment. Before we do that though, I want to just take my wet wipe, the ice rub or alcohol, and just clean up these sides along here, ready for when we're going to apply our resin. Okay, now what we're going to do is we will seal the other sides once we have put the next layer of resin on. That side I just sealed because due to the tape coming off, it was a little bit mucky. You can see there. It's not that bad though. Now we're going to apply our resin. So we're going to take our resin, and I'm going to just quickly grab my resin brush. I do believe. There we go, got it. Okay. Now we're just going to apply a nice thick coat into the river here. And then start brushing that over the surface. Like so. And I'm not going to do the what will be called the sky area just yet. I want to do this bit first. And that's really bringing out the black. And so you could use a primer. You don't have to use souffle. I originally thought that was probably going to leave with a texture, and I might actually leave the sky with a little bit of a texture. I might just give it a light burnish later on. But you could definitely use just about any brand of clay you want. I like the souffle though because it doesn't stick, and so the actual process of moulding it into the right shape with the mountains and stuff, it's a lot easier. But yeah, you could use any brand you want. Alright, so I'm just twisting that around, making sure that I got all the little bits and pieces. All the way up to the edges. And we'll take care of those edges a little bit later when I show you how to resin the edges, because I keep getting questions on how to do that. It's not absolutely necessary, but if you feel like doing it, we could definitely do that. Right, let's pop that into the UV light again. Okay, and you can see how it is starting to look now. It's been in the UV light for just under a minute, and it should set by now. And I'm quite happy with how that looks. And I've decided on what I want to do with this. I am going to probably seal it with just a, this is actually a bit bright, apologise for that. There. Probably going to seal it with this Liquitex matte varnish, but that can only be done after this has been in the UV light for, I would say about 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do now, since this has been set enough, you want to hold the matte area. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our brush, which has some resin on it. I actually want to grab some more resin. This is a little bit of a delicate process. Okay, and you want to have your UV light on, because what you're going to do is once you have popped some resin onto the side, you can put it immediately into the light, sit it there for a moment or two, that will set it, and then you'll move on to the next one, and then you leave it in for about 15 minutes. We're just going to take our resin and we want to just run that along the surface. You don't want much, and then use your finger to just brush over the surface just to even it out, because you don't want it distorting your shape. Okay, and then pop that into the UV light, flip, repeat, flip, repeat, and then leave in for at least 15 minutes. Okay, just bring it out of the UV light quickly. And here is how it looks so far. So it looks really quite nice. So now we want to tend to this bit over here. Now I've decided I'm actually going to be using some Renaissance wax, because that's what I use the most. So you guys probably have a bit of that, and also it will give it a little bit more shine than what the the matte varnish will give it. I'm just going to use a brush to get it into these difficult positions here. And I'm not touching the resin too much, because at this point the resin is still not completely cured. It needs to air dry for a while, I find. Okay. Then just use your finger to just gently smooth that out. I'm not going to buff it. And that will just give it a very light sheen, but at the same time the mountains and the river are what's going to really shine, and it will bring out that center point, which is quite nice. Right, so now I'm just going to let that all air dry for about an hour, and then when it's done we are going to assemble our piece. Okay, so this has been drying for a while now, and here is how it looks. So now we are going to bring over 2 pieces of cord, take that and put that through one of the holes, like so. Just want to see how that looks. See if that's thick enough? Yes. Then just take those pieces of cord, and then I'm threading through a gunmetal spacer bead. Okay, and it can be a little bit tough to get through, all 4 anyway. Just work at it and it should start to come through. Okay, and which one is the one that's missing? Okay, just continue pushing through, and everything that I'm doing on the side, there we go, repeat on the other side. Okay, now I just want to bring these up to each other so that they are even. So, and then pull your spacer bead all the way down. To about there, so that this can move around still. But it will hold the cords in place. Then just go and grab our cord end, and I actually just want to bring up some scissors to snip this. Go. Pop those straight in here, and that can take a little bit of working in as well. Okay, just bear with me for a moment. Okay, and I've just swapped out the cord end because that other one was not big enough. Okay, and this is actually a ribbon end. Close that over the surface. Press down nice and hard so that it's stuck on. Give it a pull to make sure that it is stuck there. And there's your first cord. Then you're going to grab a jump ring and half a clasp. And you're going to link that together. Like so. And then repeat on the other end. Okay, and there we go. All finished. So it's a really quite simple project. It's excellent for beginners. I tried to keep it as simple as possible so that just about anybody could do it. It means that if you've just picked up a block of clay, you basically could do it, because it is really only using one colour of clay and a bit of mica powder and resin. Really easy to do. However, if you're a little bit more skilled in polymer clay, some of the ideas that you could think about is maybe putting a skinner blend in the sky layer. So maybe you go from like a dark red all the way up to a dark blue so that it looks kind of like a skinner blend sunset. You could maybe think about putting a little bit of texture into the mountains and maybe making that a skinner blend as well. You could also, instead of using mica powder and resin to create the river, you could use my faux amylite technique to create a really quite shiny river. Or you could even put clay in there as well. There's lots of ideas as far as that goes, but I tried to keep it as simple as possible today so that anybody could do it. The most complicated bit really is just the resin bit, but it's still quite simple so long as you're using UV resin. So I do hope that this tutorial was helpful to you. Another thing that I do want to mention is that if you don't have UV resin, feel free to use two-part resins like ice resin. It just means that it's going to take a bit longer and you're going to have to wait overnight for the resin to cure, but that's fine. So hope this was helpful to you. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and if you'd like to support this channel so that I could keep posting videos every single week, please do consider becoming a patron. I have bonus tutorials on there exclusive to patron every single month, so please do consider becoming a patron. You also get a coupon to my Etsy shop. You can go up to about 20% for my Etsy shop, so you can get your cutters on 20% off. So please do consider becoming a patron. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.